Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Dr. Tom LaHue, and we're going to be talking about the CliftonStrengthsFinder strength of empathy. So if you are a highly empathetic person, a highly intuitive person, and can relate to other people's feelings and understand their perspective, then this is one of your strengths. If you're like me, somewhere in the middle, or this isn't one of your strengths, then it might help you understand better what people mean when they say that they have the strength or the gift of empathy. Before we get started, just a reminder, in the description below is a link to my website, tomlahue.com, where I do offer Enneagram coaching for whatever problems or challenges you're going through. It is a great tool to help us understand more about ourselves and the people that we love. I spend a lot of time working with couples and relationship challenges, but also sometimes just helping people figure out what's next in their life or what real growth might look like for them. So reach out to me. I'd love to work with you. And also there's a lot of different classes available on my website, as well as classes on demand on the Clifton Strength Finders. So if Strength Finders is something that you find useful, you can go through you can take classes on it. All right, so let's jump into this strength of empathy. And by the way, I also do live classes on Zoom. So all that stuff's available on my website. And a lot of free downloads in my store. But okay, so let's talk about empathy. Like I said, I scored sort of in the middle, 19 out of 34 strengths. So I'm somewhat empathetic, but maybe not. Maybe I could work on it a little bit. So what is empathy? Well, first let's start with the card. The Clifton Strength Finders card, and then I've got this little book here that we're looking at by Tom Rath, Strength Finders 2.0, as well as my own notes. And all 4 or 5 pages of my notes are available in the course. So if you take the course on my website on demand on Clifton Strength Finders, all of my notes are available in those courses for your benefit. So let's start with the card. The card says, empathy, people exceptionally talented in the empathy theme or strength can sense other people's feelings by imagining themselves in other people's lives or situations. So it's being able to see yourself in another person's perspective or another person's point of view. I am an emotional person. I will make the visceral explicit. Now, that's kind of a confusing statement. I will make the visceral explicit. I think what is meant by that is I will make the things that are not necessarily understood objectively, that are understood intuitively, and I will bring those to light or bring those out into the open. I will experience those visceral things, those intuitive feeling things, and bring those into the situation with the knowledge of those in the situation. Now, I'm not saying that I think that's what is meant by that. I bring emotional intelligence. I need freedom to laugh and cry and vent. I love the gladness and the sadness and the madness of humanity. I hate those things that block or limit emotional expression. And the metaphor is a person's affect will determine his or her effect. So how people are affected emotionally determines whether or not they're able to be, fully present or show up to their day or their life or their work or their relationships, that kind of thing. And the barrier is you might be perceived as a bleeding heart. So people who are highly empathetic, usually understand how other people feel. Now let's get into what is mentioned in the book here, and then we'll look at anything else from the notes. Actually, the notes are really good because we're going to look at several Enneagram types are going to come to the surface. As you hear more and more about empathy, you're probably going to come to the same conclusions that I did, that, often type 2s, type 9s, maybe some type 4s, and even maybe some type 6s. It's not that other types wouldn't be empathetic, but I think those 4 are going to probably rise up to the top, with most likely being the most empathetic types. Okay, so let's see what he says in this book here. You can sense the emotions of those around you. Now, is that a good thing? Well, only you can decide. I think at times that could be a really good thing, but at other times it might be an overwhelming thing. To be able to sense or pick up on what's going on emotionally in the room, how people are doing, what their energy level is like, what their motivation or excitement level is like, whether they're sad or depressed. You're just intuitively aware of that. Like you have a radar, that picks up how the mood of the environment is or how people are doing emotionally. And I think that that could be exhausting. I think that that could be, it's almost kind of like when I think about like when I watch those ghost hunter shows and they bring a psychic into the the haunted house or the haunted hospital or whatever, and the psychic is just able to be aware of things that many of us would never pick up. They're able to pick up the sense of things or the feeling of things. And I'm not saying that people high in empathy are psychic, but I think it's similar to that in my mind, is that you're picking up things that aren't necessarily obvious or blatant or stated. You're picking up things that are unstated. The general climate or mood of the individuals and how they're relating to one another. And that is some amazing knowledge to be able to pick up. That is an amazing gift. It's an amazing strength to be able to pick that up. Again, it may not necessarily always be something that you're glad to be able to do. You can feel what other people are feeling almost as if those feelings are your own. So you can feel what other people are feeling. You can identify with not only what they're saying and understanding it, but you can also identify with the feeling. Intuitively, you are able to see the world through their eyes and share their perspective. Now, I think it's important to say that that doesn't necessarily mean you agree with their conclusions or you agree with their perspective or agree with, what they've done or how they've acted. It doesn't mean that, it even, I don't even think it means that you feel even pity. You may not feel that. I guess that would be sympathy. And that is not the same thing as empathy. Sympathy is like you feel their feelings and agree and feel that they are justified or right in what they did. I don't think that necessarily is what empathy is. Empathy is more like you understand their feelings and understand why they did what they did, but you're not necessarily agreeing that they have done the right thing or that they're in the right position. Interesting. So as a 9-wing 1, for example, or a 2-wing 1, notice both of you guys, 9 and 2, I mentioned, are probably very empathetic people by nature. Notice both of you have that 1 wing. So you may feel you may understand and empathize with what people feel, but then that strong 1 wing might say, yeah, but they shouldn't do what they did, or they shouldn't say what they said. So that's kind of like a little challenge, conundrum that exists within you. So you do understand, and this instinctive ability to understand is quite powerful. You may help people find the right phrases to put their emotional needs or their emotions into words. You may, like a priest, think about like the priest's role in the Old Testament was to give words to the people before God. And so you may find yourself sometimes in that priestly role of helping people put into words what they're feeling, helping people articulate what they are feeling. And people are going to come to you. People are going to come to you because when they're not doing well, when they're upset, when they're frustrated, when they don't feel understood, when they don't feel like they're being valued, they're going to seek you out because we long to be understood. We long to have our perspective understood. If we feel like everybody's against us and we're being judged, harshly or unfairly, you're going to seek an audience with somebody to help you reflect back that I'm not crazy, right? This makes sense. You understand why I said what I said, or you understand why I took the action I took, or you understand how I feel like I'm being ganged up on or attacked or misunderstood. People are going to seek you out like lightning. They're going to be drawn to you because you have this ability to put yourself in their shoes and understand their suffering or understand what other people don't seem to be able to understand. I think it might be important for you to be prepared for people coming to you with their challenges and to be able to empathize with them, but not necessarily to communicate to them that you agree, because they may take it that way, that since you understand their plight or understand their situation, that you're also agreeing with whatever action or behavior that they're taking. And I think it might be important for you to help them see, look, I understand what's going on. I understand why you did what you did, but I'm not agreeing necessarily. I'm not agreeing with the course of action that you took. It may be important that you communicate that boundary, because I think people might perceive your agreement or your understanding as agreement. At times, your empathy for others may overwhelm you. Yes, I think that your batteries are going to get exhausted, and it could even get exhausted to the point that you burn out, that you just turn off, if possible, this empathy. You just don't let yourself care anymore. You could become very hard and calloused and cold and just shut it off and be like, I used to care. I used to care. I used to be tuned in, but I had to shut that down. Because either I wasn't cared for in return, or people always took advantage of this and plopped down and took my time and my attention away from the other things that I need to be doing. Something he says that's very interesting, and I think it's well said. I'm just going to read it the way he says it. At times, your empathy for others may overwhelm you. You need to think about creating rituals that you can use at the end of your day to signal that your work is over, to help you buffer the emotions that prevent burnout. So that's such an interesting thought, is that when you're done with work, or you're volunteering or whatever it is that you're around these people, there may be a song you need to play on the radio on the way home, or you may need to spin around twice and smack yourself in the face or something to just remind yourself that, okay, I need to let this go now. I'm not at work anymore, and I can't stay up all night worried and anxious and thinking about and hurting for, and I need to let this stuff go. I need to get out of my car and now go into my home, and I'll come back another day. But right now I need to drop this. I need to, as best I can, try to figure out how to relax this and dust off whatever happened at work and leave that at work, if possible. Or you're going to end up in counseling. You're going to end up, needing somebody to talk to, because you're like sponging up everybody else's sour emotions and sour feelings and bitterness. You're going to be soaking it all up. And then what happens to you? Right. You can take those demons home with you if you're not careful, right? And so when you leave that haunted house, you got to, whatever the ritual is that you got to do to protect yourself, to leave the demons in the haunted mansion so you don't bring them home with you. Because you don't want that stuff affecting your marriage, affecting your relationships, affecting your general health and outlook. And I think that this is a real danger to somebody who's highly empathetic. And eventually could cause you just to shut down and be like, I'm not available anymore. Sorry, no vacancy. Sorry, the heart is closed. And that would be so sad. Wouldn't that be sad? If you have this capacity for such a big, giant heart to be able to come alongside of people and offer encouragement and understanding, wouldn't it be awful if, because you are taken advantage of, or because you're not necessarily sure how to protect yourself, that you end up closing off such a wonderful gift because you're exhausted and spent and have no more bandwidth for people and their problems? I would hate to see that happen. Okay, so encouragement, I think, is going to be one of your great strengths. All right, so let's look at my notes here. And let's review. I think there's a couple things that are really helpful. Look, I've got 2 pages in particular that are really highlighted here that I think are the most helpful. Key characteristics of empathy. I turned this into a Instagram post and a Facebook post. So if you don't follow my Instagram yet, please do. You can find all that information in the description of this video. Just go on my link tree and you'll, whatever. Okay. Emotional awareness. Number 1. Individuals with empathy are highly attuned to the emotional states of others. They can pick up on subtle cues and understand the unspoken feelings and needs of those around them. Well, who does that sound like? understand the unspoken needs of people around them. That sounds a lot like twos. Often twos kind of have that radar system that picks up on the needs of others and often knows what people need and then tends to feel some kind of obligation to meet that need, or at least you used to. Number two, compassionate listening. They excel at listening with compassion and genuine concern. Their presence provides comfort for others. Wow, who does that sound like? A lot of nines, especially 9-wing ones, 9-wing eights, maybe your strength and presence, but just your presence provides comfort for others. Compassionate listening, twos, fours, connecting with people, understanding people, getting beneath the surface with people. Number three, relational depth. Empathetic individuals can build depth and meaningful relationships. Their ability to connect to an emotional level helps strengthen the bonds and foster a sense of belonging. Okay, strengthening bonds. Number four, supportive. People with this strength are often seen as nurturing and supportive. Wow, sixes, twos, nurturing and supportive. I mean, think about what sixes want: to support others, to be supported by others. They're quick to offer a shoulder to cry on or words of encouragement, making them a source of comfort and stability. Sixes, one of the most unstable types, often provides stability to other people. It's crazy. I mean, sixes, my experience is sixes often are attracted to eights, nines, and ones because they all in their own way provide a certain level of stability, giving a six a strong rock to stand on in a relationship. And sixes, although they often can be volatile, and fours can often be volatile, it's interesting that when they help others, they often provide stability and security, understanding, and those kinds of things. The Enneagram is so interesting. Number five, intuitive understanding. They can anticipate how others might feel in certain situations and are often able to respond in a way that is considerate and appropriate. So I think, these are great strengths in counseling, coaching, team building, helping people feel understood and feeling like they're a part of the team, working together. I think customer service, customer relations, being able to calm people down and hear their problems and helping people with complaints maybe feel more understood. Now, I mentioned a few Enneagram types, and let's talk about why I think 2, 9, 4, and 6 would probably have the possibility or potential of scoring high in empathy, or at least higher than a 7. Type 2, twos are often highly attuned to the feelings and needs of others, and they derive a sense of purpose in their life, which is good. They derive a sense of purpose from helping and supporting other people, which might make them a little more naturally empathetic in relating to people around them. And they often are just warm, caring, and nurturing. Now, twos, like anybody else, can get burned out and become quite guarded and self-protective and distant and, dark. They can become like that. But I think in their nature, they tend to want to be warm, caring, and nurturing. And in the right environment, I think would show up that way. I think type 9s could score very highly in empathy because 9s, they tend to value harmony and they tend to avoid conflict, which makes them a little more sensitive to the perspective of others, and they're often good at understanding different points of view and putting themselves in other people's shoes, and usually work to, or strive, you might say, to create a peaceful, harmonious environment. And 9s are very sensitive to people's anger and very sensitive to people's expectations and very sensitive to anything that feels awkward and uncomfortable. So they're going to sense that in the room that people are not doing well or they're upset, and then might do a very good job of bringing comfort and harmony into that situation if they don't run away from it and withdraw, which might be the tendency of an average health or a low healthy 9. Okay, type 4. The individuals, type 4s are deeply in touch with their own emotions. They know themselves, they know what they're feeling, and often have a rich emotional life or emotional understanding. And this self-awareness could be translated maybe at times into like a hypersensitivity or an enlightened, if you don't like the word hypersensitivity, let's use the word enlightened sensitivity to the emotions of others, making them empathetic and understanding. And also, I think fours aren't afraid typically of the dark things that are going on in your life, or of conflict, or of challenges. I don't think they're afraid of that stuff, and actually want to lean in to your difficulties, hardships, and challenges and explore those and the meaning of those, and are often drawn to those kinds of things. Where a 9 might want to like make it go away and help you feel more comfortable. 9s, I think, might be, or 4s might be a little more wired to go deep and investigate without feeling the discomfort of it. Okay, type 6, the loyalist. 6s often are driven by a need for security, for the need to support and find support in others. Their loyalty and attentiveness in their relationships, I think, could make them empathetic. And also, 6s are very aware. They're scanning their environment all the time. They're very aware of disruptions or potential disruptions, and they don't like that. So they want to get the team working together, and they know what it's like to be misunderstood themselves, and so they might be drawn to the person in the situation that may be the underdog and may not be understood. They're often good at reading the emotional climate of the group and then responding to it. Good. I think those are some good reasons why those types in particular might score high in empathy. Now, if you're another type and you say, wow, I'm an 8 and I scored, number 3 in empathy. Okay, I'm not saying that that's not possible. I just think I'm trying to make a connection here that's not necessarily here. Okay, I'm speculating, and I'm just, giving my thoughts words. Now, why would somebody struggle with empathy? Why would this be hard for some people? Well, I mean, the first thing I think of is like neurodivergent people may have a hard time, or even people, you might think Asperger's or spectrum or any kind of autistic spectrum, I think might have a hard time putting themselves, in an understanding of other people's emotions. And even if they do understand those emotions, they may not communicate that in a way that, expresses that. I think some people's innate personality traits, like think 5s, for example, 8s, or more, and even like 3-wing 4s, they may be more self-referencing, more attuned to their own needs, and it may make them harder for them to put themselves in the feelings of others. People that, are more introverted or more rational and place a high value on rational thought and objective analytical facts, it may make them prioritize that over the emotional stuff that's going on beneath the surface, you may say. And just realize a lot of us lack emotional awareness. Like, we're not in touch with our own emotions. Like 7s, for example, they may have a hard time because they don't want to be in touch with their own emotions. So why would they want to be brought down by your sadness or your challenges? Why don't we just distract ourselves and move away from this? I think past trauma and negative experiences, past trauma, if somebody brings up something that re-traumatizes you, or like I said before, you have given so much of yourself and energy and attention to others and it isn't reciprocated, you may just shut down and no longer have any battery power left for that kind of thing. Some types, like 8s, have a fear of vulnerability, and empathy requires a certain level of vulnerability. And that could be challenging for some of us, connecting with other people on an emotional level. Think like the INTJs and the ENTJs that very much, value efficiency and effectiveness. They ain't got time for your emotional stuff. Just get your job done. Or an ISTJ, respect, chain of command, and effectiveness. Just quit your belly aching and get your work done is kind of the way they think, which is often 1s, and like I mentioned before, 8s and 3-wing 4s, INTJs, ISTJs, ESTJs, all of those TJs and NTJs, STJs, I think. And then even like TPs, the accuracy people. Well, you shouldn't feel that way. Well, that's not, you shouldn't feel that way. I realize people who are empathetic, they don't say things like that, like you shouldn't feel that way. They understand your feelings and value those feelings. So you're talking probably the NFJs, the SFJs, the NFPs, INFPs, those kinds of people, if you think about Myers-Briggs. Again, burnout or being overwhelmed or feeling overwhelmed, or like you got a lot of work to do and you just can't focus more on other people because I'm feeling the pressure of my own deadlines. I think all of those could be, potential things that make it difficult. How could you improve? How could you improve your level of empathy? Well, I think making yourself listen to people, practicing trying to put yourself in their perspective and trying to understand their feelings, and maybe even saying back to them what you're gathering and see if you're right. Tell them, I think what you're saying is, summarizing that, and then I think what you're feeling is, and then try to come up with some words to describe how you think they're feeling, and make that a discipline for yourself. Imagining yourself in other people's perspectives, practicing patience and understanding, asking open-ended questions, observing non-verbal cues, being more mindful. All of these things might help contribute to us growing a little bit in this skill of empathy. Slowing down, focusing on what they're saying and what they need and what their hopes and dreams are. I'm trying to get the focus off of yourself a little bit more. And I'm not saying people who aren't empathetic are selfish as much as maybe self-referencing. And self-referencing, that sounds a lot better than selfish, doesn't it? Self-referencing, the assertive types, for example, might do well if we would slow down a little bit, lean into our wings, or think about your growth points and try to pick up those strengths, one of which would be empathy. So I hope that this encourages you. If you're an empathetic person, thank you. Thank you for your support, and thank you for your understanding. We all need you at times, for sure. We all need you at times to come alongside of us and offer the understanding and support that you so readily give. We appreciate your gift, and the rest of us, we're going to work on it, on valuing it, and then applying more of it into our life. Thank you guys. I appreciate you all, and have a great day.